Money Talks features market makers and leaders within the world of rare collectibles, currency, alternative assets, finance, and everything in between. Join the conversation and take a deep dive into the mind of some of the world's most impactful guests to share their strategies and lessons to dominate their respective fields. Hosted by legendary sports executive, entrepreneur, and investor, David Meltzer. This is Money Talks, presented by Stack's Bowers Galleries. We have some amazing guests coming up, but first, let me introduce you to our host, David Meltzer. David Meltzer grew up poor with a dream of buying his mom a house and a car. Within 9 months of graduating law school, David became a millionaire and achieved that dream. After becoming a multi-millionaire, he then lost over $100 million and built it back to run the most notable sports agency in the world. Considered one of the top esports entrepreneurs and investors, David is also a 3-time international best-selling author, a top 100 business coach, and the host of the Top Entrepreneur Podcast, The Playbook. His life's mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. This simple yet powerful mission has led him on an incredible journey to provide one thing: value. Coming up on this episode of Money Talks, presented by Stack's Bowers Galleries, Greg Roberts and Matt Leinart. Greg Roberts was born and raised in Pasadena, California, and was introduced to the world of numismatics by his uncle, Gene Calvert. Today, as CEO of Stack's Bowers Galleries and A-Mark, Greg manages an international collectibles network with affiliates headquartered on 3 continents.
Welcome to Money Talks with David Meltzer. And I'm excited to bring on an incredible guest here, Greg Roberts. He is the CEO of Stack's Bowers Galleries and A-Mark. Welcome to Money Talks, Greg.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You know, I find this space so amazing, not just because when I was a kid, I was a collector of everything from bottle caps to trading cards. And as everyone else, I wish I would have known the value of what I was collecting at the time, especially the cards that I had. But more importantly, I have found that even the highest level executives in the space like you that deal in millions of dollars of collectibles with auctions and galleries and really understanding it as an asset class, it seems as if everybody starts at a young age. Is that true for you too?
Absolutely. I'm like everybody else. I started when I was 12 or 13. I had an uncle and he was in the coin business and he gave me an album just like this one over here, this Walking Liberty half book, and I started filling it in and going to the coin shop, and that's how I got into it. I had a little divergence from the collecting side just because when I was in the mid 70s, when I was 14, 15 years old, the price of silver had gone up, and you were able to find silver coins at the banks, and I was able to find common silver coins and translate that into cash, which then I used to buy the more collectible coins. So I got a little bit of both the economic side and the collector side.
What I found about collectors is they understand the basics of economics and the basics of marketplaces. And those two are very valuable characteristics or attributes into making money. What are some of the basics of the business that you have learned since you were 12 or 13,
right,
but still are applicable today with Stack's Bowers Galleries and A-Mark?
Well, I think collectibles start with the supply and demand equation, and I think then you add in the emotion and the nostalgia of when you were younger, and I think that really plays into as an asset class, because a lot of people I know over the years always wanted a certain coin or a certain card or a certain, a car or a painting, and they started collecting, and they collected what they could afford, and what you see, what I've seen, every decade in my career is that as people who collected early, they may have collected, baseball cards that are worth a quarter or 50 cents or $1, or coins that are worth $5 or $10, but a certain group of those collectors become successful financially, and the price of their toys or the price of their collectibles go up. And I see a lot of guys today that, dreamed about, that 1804 silver dollar or the or the Mickey Mantle card, and they still collected in the space, but they couldn't afford the higher end stuff, and today they are. And I think that when you add emotion into collecting, a lot of times, as long as it fits your wallet, you want that. You want to have it, you want to own it, and do you really care if you pay $1 million or $1,050,000? You're going to get it. And then the competition of going against a peer or somebody your same age that's in the same position that wants the same item, it just kind of heightens the competition. So, that's what I've found.
One of the most interesting things, because I've been around the game a long time as well and have watched and participated in that emotional aspect, especially in the sports collectible spot, being in the career that I'm in. But one of the things that has changed a lot is everybody's always known a rare coin or a rare car or a rare card is going to have great value. When we know that there's a limited amount of something, it's obvious that it'll be worth more. But I think it was difficult for me to anticipate, and I was wondering, someone like you that has been around, like myself, experienced in the space of buying and selling, that I never imagined the size, scope, and scale of the audience. And, as much as something's rare, I never considered, well, what if there was like 7.6 billion people that were aware of what I had? So maybe there doesn't just have to be one, now there can be 100. But if billions of people are aware of 100, it's almost the same, if not better, than if there was just one, but only 1 million people knew about the fact that there was only one. How has the global reach of communications, of building a community of awareness, changed the face of your business?
Well, I think you're correct, and you make a good point. Generally, supply creates demand. And so when you have one of something, it doesn't, it's not, you don't get as many people chasing it if there's only one. So a lot of times if there's more of something, it does create more, quite a bit more demand. And that, I think, that kind of leads into, how does something become, not only accessible, but also, rare enough that they only trade, every 10 years or every 5 years, and people can get into that. I think from Stax's perspective, I think the internet and just our website and our ability to reach people all around the world has really just changed how business is done. And, when I was growing up in the coin side and coming up in the business, there was 6 or 7 major coin shows a year, and you had to go to the shows, and everything moved at a snail's pace, but those shows are where transactions actually happen. Today at Stax, we're transacting 24/7. If it's not an auction, it can be a direct sale. It can be us putting a buyer and a seller together in a prearranged transaction. But I think that we now offer auctions 24/7. So you just get a lot more people, a lot more eyeballs, and I think educating and a lot of what we do to write catalogs and to put content out there, it's developing, and particularly in the last few years since the COVID, it's been crazy. I mean, during that time, a lot of people were able to just be online and able to continue to buy things and collect, and it's not just coins or bullion or paper money or cards. It's across a lot of different items and products, and I think we've just we've been very fortunate, and then we've been able to execute on that.
And for someone like you that has been in the business for so long, understanding the media side of amplifying the awareness to how much fun it is and how much money you can actually make.
Yep.
How much do you put into educating the marketplace in that respect? Because I think, as I have found in collectibles, when we get people educated or aware of something that's been around, that's time tested, like collecting gold coins or collecting gold in general, there seems to be a fresh new energy, and we see that in crowdfunding, we see it in stock market, but I especially see it in collectibles, of educating a whole new generation of this excitement and investment opportunity.
Again, back to the internet, I think it sets up perfectly for our product in that the the characteristics of how you market to people and how Google recognizes you and how the digital marketing works today is you have to have a lot of content, and the content plays a part in how the advertising works. And I think that one of the things Stax does particularly well is we have archival information going back 40, 50, 60 years, and we're able to now bring that to a new collector base or a new investor base, and we're able to educate. And we have, catalogs going back to the 40s or the 50s. We have articles written by people that have worked for Stax over the years. And I think, that's a key part of our marketing efforts, that we use that archival material to educate and to introduce certain coins and the history of certain coins to a new group of buyers. And you can really learn a lot, on our website, or we have, books that we've published that are sitting behind us here, that you can buy. And so I do think that the internet and today's accessibility to content is really driving the extreme interest. And I don't think it's a lot different than what you described, is just this ability for people also to communicate on blogs or back and forth on chat message boards. I think that too is really changing the dynamics.
And the economy is secular. Once again, you are blessed to have seen a few cycles from upturns to downturns, and collectibles seem to be consistent in general with the economy, where we can know when to buy low and sell high. Is that part of owning a marketplace where you can take advantage of the economy itself, meaning that when the market's going up, we can make sure and create more interest, and when the market's going down, we can also create interest because there's more bargains?
Yeah, I think everybody likes to buy the dips. I think you see that a little bit more on the bullion side, which as you said, I'm also involved with. I think you like stocks, and what's been a characteristic of the equities market over the last few years is buying the dips has worked. A lot of people like to buy the dips, and then the market continues up. And I think on the bullion side, that is also very, very relevant. I think on the collectible side, I think it's a little bit less economic driven, and I do believe that art or cards or coins, they do have a little bit different characteristics into what affects pricing and what's a downtrend and what's an uptrend. Again, like I said, coins with the precious metal side of things, you're going to get a little bit more of the macroeconomic impact on that, because is it an inflation hedge? Is it a store of value? Is it going to act somewhat as a non-dollar based currency or a non-fiat currency? So I think each one of the different classes has a little bit different characteristics, but I do think that historically, what I've seen and what I've lived through, inflation is generally good for our products. They generally are taking advantage of a lot of money out there with a lot of price increase in other things, and I do believe you see that. Historically, coins and collectibles have suffered a little bit in recessionary times, but I think that we've had a pretty good run on the collectible side. I think this has a lot to do with what we were talking about before. So many more buyers today. There's so much more competition for a very limited supply of product. And 25 years ago there were just a few of certain types of coins, and there's just more people chasing them today, and they're not making more of them. So I do think that we are seeing something that transcends a little bit the macroeconomics and is really demand driven right now. So I think it's hard to say exactly what financial situation is going to create what, but I will say that right now we just have many more people chasing the same amount of product.
And to exacerbate that as well, there's more high net wealth individuals on earth today, meaning more millionaires, more billionaires, and soon to be more trillionaires. And when we have rarity, as you mentioned, price doesn't matter sometimes. It's a matter of ego. But I think as a marketing tool, regardless of what it is, when you see something sell for $10 million or $50 million, even the investor that never will be able to buy a baseball for $5 million, all of a sudden it raises almost a lottery ticket mentality of buying baseballs, which increases the market as well. Have you seen the shift into a higher net wealth individual help with the marketing of collectibles, because you do get these outrageous sales that, you know, don't happen as often, but they're happening more often than they used to?
Well, I mean, in recent history, there's just been a lot more of these big transactions happening. It doesn't, if it's a baseball card, if it's a rare collectible automobile, if it's a painting, if it's a coin,
Or even NFT.
you know, an NFT, you're seeing numbers that have never been around before. And I do believe that this wealth, this overall wealth, you know, is driving it. I mean, you see the action in equities, you see the action in real estate. You know, it is these asset classes are all performing, you know, extremely well. And you know what continues to surprise me is in the numbers I see both on the bullion side and the collectible side is the amount of new investors and new buyers that are still coming into the marketplace today. And I think it's just unprecedented. And I gauge this particularly on our precious metals business at A-Mark and our company, our retail-facing company, JM Bullion. The amount of new customers every week continues to really, you're talking about thousands of new customers a week, and you're talking about very large initial purchases, very high dollar amount, which just hasn't been seen before. And I think it reflects what you're talking about, is that the overall pool of liquid assets is probably many times bigger than we even realize right now. And I think the liquidity in all of these markets is something that, just wasn't here 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Well, that's definitely one thing I've learned with Stacks Bowers is understanding the data, getting educated with a credible source that has been around long enough that I know that they're looking in my best interests with the galleries, with A-Mark, giving me the best information and the easiest way to accommodate the information that I'm given. And I want to thank you for leading the way for so many years. It's an honor to be here with a Hall of Famer of collecting, by the way. You can only find the Hall of Famers of collecting here on Money Talks.
I'm excited to hear from our next guest, Matt Leinart, one of the most decorated college football players in sports history. Matt Leinart is an analyst on Fox Sports' Big Noon Kickoff college football pregame show. A College Football Hall of Fame inductee, Leinart won the Heisman Trophy, a BCS National Championship, and 2 Associated Press National Championships as a quarterback at Southern California. Leinart is now pursuing his next venture and entrepreneurial journey as co-founder of Hall of Goats, an arcade-style college football game.
Welcome to Money Talks with David Meltzer. And I have a Hall of Fame college football player, pro football player. He is Fox Sports analyst and also an entrepreneur, co-founder of the Hall of Goats, the incredible Matt Leinart. Welcome to Money Talks.
What's up, man? You got so many shows and so much going on. I'm just honored to talk to you, man. You're like the busiest man in the world I've ever met.
I love it. I saw Kevin Hart at the Eagles game, and I'm like, I want to be as active as Kevin Hart because I see him and Shaq everywhere. And right. I love it. And sitting behind the decks, you're not a stranger to as well, but you're also not a stranger to collectibles. And I'm going to start off with the obvious question, may not be obvious to everyone, is what do you think a Heisman Trophy's worth?
Well, if you ask a couple people who sold it, I mean, I think you could just look it up and see what they got it for. But that's not for sale.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be. Although one of your alumni, Marcus Allen, has probably the best Heisman Trophy story ever of how he forgot that he had let a museum borrow it. And he had thought it was stolen, and I said, Marcus, your career has to be so amazing that you forget where you put your Heisman Trophy. But needless to say, it does bring up a great point of it is one of the rarest trophies available, and so it has great value. And collectibles today, whether it's sneakers, trading cards, NFTs, are hotter than ever, and the
Yeah.
marketplace is bigger than ever because there's so many people that are participating in that market. What are some of the ways that you're participating today in the collectible realm as a business person?
Yeah, well, actually, a few different ways. I'm still old fashioned in the sense that I collect sports trading cards. I had a passion for that as a kid. Growing up with my brothers, we all kind of just collected cards and your favorite baseball, basketball, football player. And when you're younger, I didn't collect them as an investment. Really, I collect them because it was fun. It was a passion. It was joy. It was cool to do. Got away from that, and then recently kind of got back into that as I've gotten older, and also from a business standpoint, as you just said, the collectible market is kind of picking up, whether it's toy collectibles and old like Cabbage Patch doll cards. Like you see some of this stuff coming up, and it's like, oh crap, I should have saved that.
I
So
got to interrupt you. How about saving every pair of free shoes that you were ever given, that you didn't wear? Imagine if you just saved every pair.
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. So when I was with Nike, and I had a Nike deal, and you get the Nike Dunks. I used to give my brother, like, hey, dude, you get as many Dunks as you want. I'm not going to spend this money. He's got probably a dozen pair of Dunks from like 2007 that are all worth hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars, and they've never even been out of the box. So, um, I think in that sense, like just the joy and the passion of collecting trading cards, collecting your favorite players. I'm actually learning more about that side as far as learning, getting cards graded and tournament and all of those things, and figuring out the investment side of that. But then the other thing, obviously, what we're doing, and I'm rocking, is the Hall of Goats, is the digital assets, the digital collectibles, and we're working with high school and college athletes as far as doing their digital collectibles and their assets, and also incorporating that into the Hall of Goats video game that we're currently building. And I know that obviously you're aware of. So it's a really interesting space. I think, as you said, it's never been hotter. And I'm excited to learn about it daily, invest in it, and be a part of it, because I just think I mean, we're just starting it. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger.
Now, one of the things I like about Hall of Goats is it works within the context of an asset in timing as well. So you take a high school athlete, and we give
Right.
all of this opportunity to grade high school athletes. Then, just like a collectible, you as a athlete get rarer and rarer. There's one Heisman Trophy winner, then there's one MVP of the Super Bowl, and as successes continue on in your career, that Trevor Lawrence's high school undefeated season, and maybe he got a trophy, something like that can then be put into a digital asset,
Right.
could be worth a lot of money 100 years from now. And how are you seeing the applicability to so many different athletes now, that you don't have to be a Heisman Trophy winner in order to have some sort of monetary asset that is tangible and fungible and tradable?
That's to me the best part about kind of the Web3 gaming and the digital assets and what we're doing with Hall of Goats. And you said it, Caleb Williams is a partner. He just won the Heisman Trophy. He's obviously as talented as they come. He's probably going to be the #1 draft pick next year, in 2024. We just did his digital asset drop right after he won the Heisman Trophy. So you're talking about great career achievements, whether it's high school, college, pro. You're talking about achievements, and you mentioned the word ownership, and that's the most important thing, and what differentiates from my passion or your passion from collecting actual, like, a trading card. Whereas on the blockchain and in the digital world, you actually have ownership of that. So the fans and followers who bought Caleb Williams' first drop right after he won the Heisman Trophy, they own that now, and they own that asset, and they own a piece of that, and now they can sort of, in a way, be a part of Caleb Williams' journey through college and through the pro, and maybe pros, and maybe he's a Hall of Famer, and that digital asset gains value each and every time that he continues on that path. So that's what's really interesting and really exciting for us. I mean, you could buy, maybe you can get into someone, a great high school athlete, a 5-star kid or whatever, and get his first ever digital asset drop and own it, and have the perks that go along with that, with the utility that can be offered. And now you're like hand in hand with an incredible journey. And the player is also a part of that too. The player knows who owns his assets, and so that community part of that is really cool. And then the other part of your kind of question also, just, you don't have to be a Heisman Trophy winner. I think in this day and age, and with social media and branding and content, and just really kind of tech savvy and very knowledgeable Gen Zers, whether athletes or not, influencers, owning, owning their asset and going along with their journey, whether they're a 5-star or whether they're a 3-star or whether they go to USC or wherever, it doesn't matter. And I think that's just the world that we're getting into. And that's the world that is really, really fascinating to myself. And I think to all of us who kind of understand a little bit about the digital asset and what it has to offer.
And a lot of people don't understand that. But do you own traditional assets and gold, or have you looked into traditionally how transparent assets can accumulate wealth? Are you at all versed in that in your experience?
I mean, probably not as much as I should be. I mean, real estate, I own a couple properties and stuff. And that's something, as I've gotten older, is understanding, like, I mean, full disclosure, I own a property in Orange County, and I was thinking about, sell versus rent. And obviously, you sell, you get big gain, but you get the capital gains tax and all that. But I have a buddy who's in real estate and very, very smart and very intelligent. Kind of real estate is king, right? Holding on and owning that asset and that ownership, So,
Yeah, now you're
and again,
talking.
I knew that, but at the end of the day, like, I am not, and again, I am not an expert in that, but it was like, that makes sense. I understand why, but sometimes, you have to, I joke, but like, you teach 39, 40, I mean, financial literacy or asset class or learning taxes,
Yeah.
all those things. I mean, gosh, I mean, our world and our country is changing so much, especially the economy, that there's so many things to learn. So yeah, I mean, I'm aware of it. I understand it a little bit, and it goes kind of back to the digital asset and owning that over time, and the transparency that digital assets offer. Yeah, so it intrigues me and it excites me, as I said, and it's something that I'm constantly learning about daily.
And that humility, with the Hollow Goats and the company is so great, because I think a lot of the younger people in high school and college, they need mentorship from
Yes.
people like you, right? And to understand that, hey, look, I'm humble enough to tell you what I know, but what I don't know, and what I don't know, I find people like this that are experts in real estate, and we can help the young people really maximize their opportunity, regardless, like you said, whether they are a Heisman Trophy winner or even make it to the NFL. There's so much opportunities, so many options, and to give your mentorship is important. Last question: as you still are humble enough to seek mentorship, you probably do have some strategies in place that you've learned over these 39 years, even though you don't look it, buddy. But what's one of the strategies that you see? If you were a high school or a college athlete with things like the Hollow Goats, what's one
Right.
of the strategies that you would, just like your friend told you about real estate, or I'll help you with asset-based lending, what's one of the
Right.
strategies that you would tell a high school kid that is maybe a 5-star athlete about utilizing their name, image, and likeness?
The biggest thing, and like, what I would tell myself, my 21-year-old self, is you have to be okay and comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what does that mean for me? Well, that means going back and networking, going back and not being afraid to kind of think outside the box, or have the humility that I probably have more humility now than I did when I was 21. And a lot of these kids now, and not all of them, but a lot of them are making potentially 7 figures coming out of high school or coming out of college. Humility can get you lost on that when you're making that amount of money. playing something that you love to do at a young age. So for me, I wish I could go back. And this is what I tell people. It's like, one, you're entering a world that there's a lot of sharks out there. There's a lot of people out there that are going to take advantage of you, that are going to try and take advantage of you. One, surround yourself with the best possible people around you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be family. Sometimes that's not the best case. It could be someone like you, Dave, a mentor, or someone that's in this world that's willing to lend a hand. It could be a teacher, it could be a counselor, it could be coaches, it could be people. At least if you have questions, ask them, and those people can try and connect you with the right type of people around you. And it's easier said than done, because we all know a lot of people come from all different walks of life and all areas and all over the country, and don't necessarily have all of those resources and assets. And that's why I hope that high schools and colleges start to implement the financial education courses and the tax education and the NIL education in particular. Be okay with stepping outside the box, asking the hard questions, challenging yourself, being humble, and it's okay not to know anything. Like, I don't know about this. Hey, explain it to me. You're never too young or old to learn about something, right? Knowledge is power, the great saying. It's so true. So I try and tell that to people now, and even parents now. And if you just consistently do that, whether you play 10 years or not, all of a sudden when you're 35, 39, your wealth of knowledge and your circle of people is just massive, and I think that would just be the best advice I could give these kids.
That is great advice, and they absolutely should look into the Hall of Goats, where people make it more comfortable for you to ask for help, which is always my best piece of advice. And what I tell people, I would tell my 18-year-old self is, hey man, ask for help. You don't know what you don't know, and money will talk to you if you listen. It will follow you as well, and it has followed you. And we are blessed to be part of the Hall of Goats. Matt Leinart, Heisman Trophy winner, great Fox analyst, but more importantly, a mentor to many, especially in the NIL space. You got to check out the Hall of Goats. Thanks for joining me on Money Talks.
Thanks for watching today's episode of Money Talks, presented by Stack's Bowers Galleries. See you next time.